Hello and welcome. I'm Paisley, if you don't know me. For this practice, you're gonna want a bath towel or blanket rolled up and something like a yoga block or maybe a throw pillow off your couch for later. Just set those to the side for now. And then you're gonna come onto your mat and you're gonna come to all fours. When you get to all fours, we're gonna begin a cat-cow, but in a forward-backward movement. So we're gonna lean a little forward over the hands, arch the back, look up. And then we're gonna round the back into cat pose, and we're gonna shift the weight toward the heels. So go back and forth a few times. Inhale up, arch the back, look up, tail up. Exhale, round or flex the spine, and lean your weight toward your heels, just stretching out the back of your body. Let's do this a couple more times. Rocking front to back and moving through spinal flexion and extension. Last pass like this. Hold in this sort of child pose-like shape for one big breath. Let that breath go. And when you rise back up, step forward with your right foot into a lunge. We're going to bring the hands up onto the front leg. You can pad under the knee if you need to. And we're going to stay a little bit upright today. So instead of going deep or forward in the lunge, stay a little bit more stacked above your left knee. Draw your tail down, tuck it forward, squeeze your glutes a little bit, and try to lengthen the front of your left hip flexor. So we're going to get a little bit into the quads with this stretch and the front of the left leg. Just try to keep your hips pointing mostly forward. And then we're going to add just one little extra stretch. So inhale the left arm overhead. Keep that little bit of tuck in the tail to really focus on stretching the front of the left hip. And you can stay with the arm up if you want. And just lean a little bit back, a little deeper back bend. And just a little bit over to the right. So it's not a big back bend. I'm really mostly just lifting the gaze and looking forward. Scoop the tail, squeeze the butt just gently. So the front of the hip flexor stretch. Lift up through the left hand and tip just ever so slightly to the right with your gaze elevated. Good work. Exhale, release. And you can just change from here, right leg back, left leg forward. Start with your hands on your front knee just to get your balance established. You're mostly going to be upright above your right knee. Do just a little bit of a pelvic tuck, and the reason that we're doing that is that we're trying to stretch the front of the hip flexors on the right leg and the quad as well. So as you do this pelvic tilt where you tuck the tail under and you draw the belly back, you pull your front hip bone up away from your knee to stretch your leg. So that's our emphasis today rather than going really far forward in the pose. And then when you're ready, just take the right arm overhead. So that may be enough stretch already, just reaching upright. But you can also begin to open that side of your body up more by just a little bit more lift in the chest, kind of like a mini back bend in the upper back. And also a little bit of a side bend over to the left. Give yourself the chance to breathe in the pose and to just stretch strongly through your arm while keeping that little tuck in the pelvis so you open up the front of your right leg. Go ahead and release that. And then you're going to put that left leg back. This is where you're going to grab probably at least the blanket, maybe the block if you need it. But you're going to wedge this rolled up blanket or bath towel deep in your knee. Now, if you keep your head up and you just sit back, it's going to be kind of in the middle of your calf. So I would suggest that you put your forehead down if you feel safe with that. and use your hands to wedge it deeper into the crease of the back of the leg. And then just try to kind of pin it there as you transition your weight back to sitting toward your heels. Now, if it's too much on your knees, you can grab your other blanket, pillow, whatever you have, yoga block, and stick it under your booty for a little bit of support. And just try to be patient as the rolled up blanket is doing some massage to the back of the legs. If it's intense, if you've just finished running or climbing hills or something, you might have a tendency to try to hold your weight up off the props. So try for the next just 2 or 3 breaths, we'll hold this, to release your weight down. Just to sink into that sensation. Okay, so we're going to revisit this in a moment. So you're going to keep your blanket and just set it nearby. Lift your hips. You're going to take that blanket over to the side. You can move your prop and then take yourself into downward facing dog. And when you get in dog pose, once you arrive there, if you're not sure about the length from hands to feet, just go to the top of a push-up. That's about how long you want your stance. Push on back and then bend your knees. Look at your feet. Try to get them to look like each other, lined up, kind of parallel. Spread the balls of the feet. And with the knees still bent, pike your sitting bones up toward the sky. Keep this elevation in the hips with a little assistance in pushing down into the ground to straighten the arms. And then without losing all of that elevation of the sitting bones, begin to get the legs a little straighter. I'm less interested in the heels dropping to the floor and more interested in the height of the hips, which translates into length in the spine. So keep the hips high. And gradually just straighten the knees more and more. We're just holding for this dog pose, not moving around, not flowing into any other poses, just allowing the calves, the feet, the legs to stretch. Lots of things to stretch. So steady your mind. Notice if it's wandering and just bring it back to breathing. Or perhaps even just on really being curious and noticing the sensation of stretch wherever you feel it in your body. Okay, this is a nice long hold, so we're going to stay here just for one more breath. And then we're going to drop the knees again. So we're going to return, like I said, to this prop, and we're going to put it maybe an inch or two closer to the heels than where we had it last time. So we're trying to keep it in somewhat of a tight roll, not like a fold, but something kind of round and more firm. We've just moved it down the leg, and we're going to sit back on it again. And remember that if it's super uncomfortable, you can do a couple things like sit on your block again or just lean your weight forward so it's not so heavy on the prop, on the thing you're sitting on is what I mean, or hovering on. And then over time, we're trying to bring more weight upright, more of the torso upright, and weight kind of resting into that self-massage that's happening. Maybe like I literally just ran, might be painful in your calves. So we're going to be here for, let's just do 3 more breaths. Try to stay with it. I know it might be intense. Okay, lift the hips. Again, just set the rolled up blanket or towel to the side. And this time, instead of dog pose, we're going to step the feet to the outer edges of the mat. So they're like a little wider than the shoulders. And then we're going to release the torso down. You can keep your hands on the floor if you want. You could also hold your ankles or your elbows. And then just like dog pose, you want to picture that your sitting bones are the high point. So you're tipping your pelvis and allowing the butt bones to go up so that gravity is pulling down on the spine. Now, if you notice that your low back is higher than your butt bones, if it's kind of rounding up toward the sky instead of your butt being the highest, just bend your knees and try to get the spine to lengthen forward instead of rounding up toward the ceiling. And then just, again, try to be patient with your body and give it the time it needs to unravel from the tightness of your leg day. So over time, if your spine is still in that lengthening shape, just straighten the legs a little bit more. Imagine that your hamstrings, that's the back of your upper thighs, that those are kind of widening, like the fibers are widening. Let's take one last breath. Trying to relax the shoulders and the head. And then drop your hands and transition back to all fours. We're going to take this blanket roll one more time. And this time we're taking it about where the calf kind of turns into the Achilles. So it's like the lower end of the calf, but not way down on your ankle. So it's, again, like maybe 2 inches closer to your heels than last time. And then again, you're going to sit in whatever capacity you can. Maybe all your weight is on the blanket. Maybe it's supported with hands out front or something similar. And this is a really interesting tool. When you press like this on the back of your leg, you this little self-massage, it's really evident, at least in my body, which part of which leg is pushing when I run. Like it's not sore in the same place. It doesn't feel tight in the same place from my right to left. So that might be some interesting information to apply to how you work your legs when you're doing activities like running or squats in the gym. Okay, go ahead and lift up your hips again. And this time we're going to take this blanket and you're going to put it in front. Again, we're trying to keep kind of a firm-ish roll. And then we're going to step up like we did before into our forward fold. If you're having trouble with distance to reach the floor, grab your block and put it there. But this time, you're going to stay with that same slightly wide foot stance, but put the balls of your feet up on the prop with your heels on the floor. So you've got the block there if you need it. Again, we're aiming for hips high, head low. And so this flexion in the feet is obviously going to make the stretch more intense. It makes it a little bit harder feeling to straighten the legs. Let the spine decompress. So even though you might be working in the legs here to straighten them, try not to work in your face or your jaw, your shoulders. So it takes a minimum of about 30 seconds for the release that happens in stretching, for us to feel that, for the muscles and tissues to start to let go. That's part of why we're holding this for a little bit. It can take up to 2 minutes in some cases for the connective tissue to kind of unwind. And you might feel that as like a burning sensation.
So this is where you get to practice just more of the mindfulness or meditation part. Just be present with what's happening. Notice if your mind is wandering, and if so, where it's going. Or maybe you try to focus and you just stay curious about what that sensation of stretch feels like. Try to infuse the pose with one more breath full of prana. And then place your hands in front of your prop, step back, take dog pose once more. You can set it with knees bent to assist that elevation in the pelvis. Push down through your hands like you're pushing the floor away from your head. Straighten your elbows. Straighten your legs. And then drop your knees. You're going to bring that roll just a little closer to you and just turn around. We're going to do our kind of a final resting pose as a gentle back bend over this prop. So sit with your back facing that roll. And you're going to lean back on it. And as you lie back, you could also start on your side. You're you're going to aim for having it around your shoulder blade area. You know, if you arrive like I just did and you're like, whoa, that's really intense, that's too tall, I can't even get my head to the ground, just make this roll less high, just unroll it a little bit. You want to be able to relax in the shape of the back bend, a supported back bend here, not feel like you're holding your breath because it hurts too much. Just try to open the arms out to the sides. You can bend the elbows too, especially if you don't have much room where you are practicing. But shoulders and head are on one side of the roll. Buns are on the other side on the floor. And we're going to take 10 breaths together. There's one. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. That's 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Continue with slow, steady breathing. Softening the shoulders back, trying to relax in the neck, the throat. Making any minor modifications or adjustments you might need. Over the next couple or last couple of breaths, just allow the front of your body to drop down, like it's settling into the back of the body, and the back of the body is resting on the floor. You're going to start to just blink your eyes open. Notice whatever you notice in the room, maybe the color or the light or the shadow. And then begin to roll over to your side. Use your hands to push yourself back up. Take a moment to sit however you can. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, for your subscribing and always watching. It's always wonderful to have you here. See you next time. Thanks for being here.